And we're live. Here we are. Welcome, hello, and joining us for the first part of the second phase of the Road to Infinity War of the live streams that I'm
You need
doing.
to work on these titles, Greg.
Joining me, we have, as always, Ibi, and as per usual, Zaid.
No, my name's James, don't you know?
Oh, hi, James.
I'm
Have
just
you had a tan?
It's a skin transplant.
Also grown a beard.
Yeah. It's also like a full facial transplant of Zaid's face. My name is now James.
James is like 6. He can't grow a beard.
Oh, that's concerning.
That's
This is the truth.
So yeah, today we're going to talk about the first two movies to come out after the Avengers. In a post-Avengers world, where are we now? What's going on? Hopefully, we're going to find out.
Oh boy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
So, the first thing to come out after the Avengers in summer of 2012 was Iron Man 3.
Yes.
How do we feel about Iron Man 3 as the first movie to come out after the Avengers?
I'll say one thing about it. I do love the movie Iron Man 3, but it had possibly the most deceptive advertising campaign I've ever seen for a Marvel movie. Because they suggested so much that was going to come in this movie, and then none of that was paid off in the movie. But what you got was nice, it was great, but then the expectations they gave to the fanboys, and probably why they're so butthurt still about this movie, is probably... I feel like they should have been more upfront here, you know.
Yeah.
But then again,
One thing
Marvel
with
needs to sell
Marvel
tickets.
is the trailers are very, very deceptive. Especially in this phase, actually. Like, I was going to say that to Thor as well.
Hi. What's going on? I'm live streaming. What do you want? It's my entire family. You're not on camera. You're not on camera. Oh my god! I'm gonna have to mute.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
I will also agree. This movie is nice. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was the first one after the Avengers that I saw in the cinema, and this was like the beginning of me going to see them every time.
Okay.
Which lasted until Age of Ultron.
Nice.
We're gonna disagree on this, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's fine. It's,
right.
I like it. I'll watch it for nostalgia,
right.
but I don't really get like emotionally involved in it hugely. Like in terms of like, how am I going to phrase this? Okay, so some of them like I get really like into and involved in the narrative, whereas like I'm afraid I'll just bang it on in the background.
Okay. Well, I'm back again. Hello.
Hello, Zaid.
Hello. Yeah, I was. They came in to laugh at the idea of live streaming, and then my youngest brother told me that Doctor Strange is the best Marvel movie.
Fuck.
And that's what he wanted me to say.
Perfect. Is your camera working?
No, I just forgot to turn it back on.
Oh, thanks.
Back. Hello.
Welcome back. So yeah, Joel just Iron Man 3 is all right, I guess. How do you feel, Zaid?
I mean, it's much like Iron Man 1. Actually, not much like Iron Man 1. I mean, it's not Iron Man 2 level of bad. Like, the writing makes sense. Its hero is, its hero is still Iron Man, but it's Iron Man recalling from, his trauma of having seen the end of the world through a hole in the sky.
Yeah.
And then falling. And I like that Iron Man, every time someone mentioned what happened in New York, just, as a PTSD-driven nightmare. And it's pretty cool.
They actually did something with his character, because Avengers was... Because if you work in like the idea of a trilogy, Avengers can function as the end of his trilogy, with him learning how to sacrifice himself, right? And then the question becomes, well, where do you go from there if you still have Iron Man 3 to do? And I like the idea of just progressing him rather than... well, here's the end of the hero's journey. Here's how a human would respond, and here's how just his story continues. He gets anxiety attacks, and he has to learn to separate himself from the Iron Man armor. And I think that's a really clever idea to go into.
Quite literally in that movie.
Definitely.
My God, some of the choices in that movie that Tony makes. Hey, I'm going to broadcast to a terrorist organization where my house is, and then I'm going to walk around my house, disable my own house defense features, and just sort of walk around in my experimental suit of armor that I know falls apart randomly. This is a good idea. I'm the
Bad
smartest man in
choices.
the world.
Bad choices. That's why he's the smartest man.
Yeah, and also like dumb things like we've seen his armor, stand up to being shot by lightning, hit by Captain America's shield, hit by other super armors, and then in this movie, it gets hit by a truck and falls apart. It's like, what?
One thing with this movie also that I would problematize is the fact we're now on Mark 42. If I recall correctly, we're on Mark 7 in the Avengers, which meant he'd make like 3 or 4 off screen. But suddenly he's made, I can't do math, I'm a humanities student.
He's made like a lot.
It's like 35. Yeah, 36, maybe.
I think it's reflected,
math.
I think
depending on, we've made like a hell of a lot of Iron Man armors.
I think it's unnecessary. And we don't get to see a lot of them function.
I'll say the opposite. I think it's meant to be this whole. It's his gut reaction to seeing something that he's convinced he can't beat. He's just seen a galactic space army. What's he done as a man who literally, quote, as he says in Civil War, he wants to put a suit of armor around the world. So it's the start of that ideology of him trying to build something and fail.
I do agree. But I would prefer it if it had waited a little bit further into like maybe I'd have replaced Thor and Iron Man, switch them around.
Okay.
Have it a little bit later in the timeline. I mean, you could still have the PTSD aspects, and I'm really glad they included that actually. But
I have to take off for a bit. I'll be back. Greg,
no worries. See you soon.
Bye.
So that was going to be my question, Ibby, actually. We're going straight from Avengers to Iron Man 3, as opposed to literally any other option. And I was going to ask how you feel about going straight into the third and final Iron Man film.
On one hand, it makes sense because we start with Iron Man. So, it makes sense that we go there next. And since we're not doing Incredible Hulk, I guess that's why we go to Thor after. But in terms of chronology, no, wait, actually, hang on. How long is Loki in that fucking dungeon for? What? The timelines in this phase are a bit
wonky.
Yeah. I personally might have done them the other way round, but I'm not sure. Or I would have just released them a bit later. Or just implied that more time had passed. Yeah. Just because I think, like, especially given the detailed process we're given in the first Iron Man movie and the second one as well, of Tony making the suits and how it's like an art form and how it is, it's a fascinating. Ridiculous to me, especially since they're not shown.
I think Ibby's Wi-Fi may have died because I don't think my Wi-Fi is dead. So
mine keeps dropping out.
Right. Hi. Okay. Do you want to just repeat what you were saying?
Okay. Wait, which bits did you hear?
You were talking about the in detail process of building the suits.
Okay, yeah, because it is a really in detailed process. We're shown that, and like, just to me, it doesn't make sense that you would make 35 of them. It just seems like he suddenly is mass producing them, which makes them not very different to the hammer drones and stuff like that.
No, there's
not a uniqueness to them. Yeah.
I've read a lot of the behind the scenes of this movie, and what they were definitely going for was the idea of mass production, which is why a lot of them feel incomplete or poorly thought out, or in the case of the Mark 42, weak. It shows that
makes sense.
Focusing on quantity over quality.
Well, that makes sense. I think they could have made that slightly clearer. Like they could have had a character observe that, because I don't know. I just don't think that comes across hugely without.
I also think that a large part of this was that he was designing them not as... So originally, his Iron Man progression was just improving. So they were Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV. Whereas with these, each one serves a different purpose. And by the time he gets to, I think, suit 15, he stops calling them by numbers and starts giving them names.
Yeah.
You see this a little bit in the final fight, where he refers to them as Igor, Red Striker, there's Heartbreak, I think, and a few others. And that shows that he's building them for specific purposes. And there are slight hints in the movie that this is the
Mhm.
case, but I do believe they should have given that some more importance.
Yeah, because I think that is what the heart of this movie should be: is the separation between Tony and his suits, especially
Yeah.
since how dependent he becomes upon them in this movie as well. And like, I just think that they could have maybe had a bit of a longer exposition at the start.
Yeah.
Just like we could have had like, you know how he goes down to the drinks cabinet or something and he has like Happy on the phone. We could have had some kind of shot of like these suits in, I don't know, it just, I would have just done a bit more visual exposition, a bit more explaining, especially from Pepper.
Yeah.
She would be very good to do exposition.
With the Mark 42, we saw its purpose, and it was introduced, reinforced, and then paid off.
Yeah.
Which is, that suit is designed to go on other people. That suit is designed to be controlled with Tony's mind.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, we have the wonderful dance scene where he puts it on. Excellent.
That's so good.
Little bit. And then during the mansion attack scene, it goes on Pepper and protects her in a very well shot scene. And then at the end, he puts it on Eldritch Killian and blows it up. Introduced, reinforced, blah, blah, blah. But the other suits just sort of exist.
Yeah.
There should have been, say, because the majority of this film is kind of a buddy cop detective storyline. And it goes to a lot of places. And I feel that that's where a lot of the narrative progression gets lost, because you feel that Tony isn't always focusing on the mission, even though he's always doing detective work to find out what he needs to do.
Yeah.
A lot of the push that this movie needs is lost. And I feel that if they'd have removed, say, one of the sections of that detective bit and replaced it with a bit in the beginning where he shows, say, like a training scene with some of these suits where we get to see them each perform differently.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen like a kind of tour of all of their functions and something like that. Just so it wouldn't even have to be all of them. Just like an establishment that they're all unique. Because this is, we were talking last time about damage in terms of the suits and how, you know, I am pleased that finally we do get some damage again on these suits, which kind of dies off horrifically after this film. But yeah, I would have liked to see like, you know, I think it's Igor, who is like a kind of prototype of the Hulkbuster in terms of form. You know, if we'd have had a little bit more focus on him, then the Hulkbuster would make more sense later on.
There's payoffs that this movie relies on that aren't set up enough.
Yeah.
And also, just as a brief side note, that sort of bolsters this idea, a large part of the toy marketing is Iron Man. And if they'd have put some sort of story significance on the variety of suits, how many action figures could you have sold?
At least 42.
That's a lot of action figures that just aren't getting sold, because like no kid is going out and arguing with their friends about the best Iron Man suit. And that's something this movie could have really accomplished.
Yeah, I agree. The design choices in both of these movies are questionable.
Yes,
but shall we move on to character?
I think we should.
We've kind of debated this for like 25 minutes.
So let's begin, as we always do, with Tony. Where do we feel he's at, and where do we feel he's going? I don't know where he's going, but blah, blah, blah.
Very, very grateful that they included the PTSD aspect, and I think it was a very nice way of doing it. The shot with God, where are they? I have a suspicion it's Maine, but that's wrong. Somewhere with that hole, and he's like, "Does it remind you of the portal?" Honestly, that whole scene is so good, and seeing Tony Stark, like, you know, the billionaire, having a panic attack, it's actually, you know, it's quite validating for I think a lot of people. And just like that, you know, superheroes aren't immune to, you know, trauma. Yeah. And especially since we don't have the alcoholism in these movies, I think this is like an important development. And again, I'd like to see it more of later on, but
yeah, we see it it informs his choices. Yeah, that's something I feel is very strong. You definitely see in this movie the beginning of, as Zaid previously mentioned, I want to build a suit of armor around the world.
Yeah.
You see Tony wanting to retire. You see him wanting to put other people in power, or other concepts in power, really.
This is something else that I don't think comes across enough in this movie, is the fact that he's not, you know, I know at the end they do have that iconic line, I am Iron Man, but I don't think it's clear enough that he's still going to be rebuilding the Iron Man suits. Because I was just like, oh wait, he's Iron Man again. Oh, all right, whatever. In Age of Ultron, I was just like, okay, well, don't know what's happened. Yeah, I don't know. Again, this is like a transition problem, I think, but maybe the writers could have worked a bit closer on that one and just kind of I don't know, it's fine. I don't know. I like Tony in this one the most, I think, out of all of the representations. So.
Oh, definitely. And we even get a nice opening with Switzerland back in 1999, where we get to compare the two Tonys. You get to see how far he's come.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, speaking of 1999 in Switzerland, should we talk about Maya Hansen?
Yes, let's. Okay, so there are 3 women in this movie, and fairly prominent roles, and 2 of them are love interests or former love interests of Tony Stark, which I would call a problem. And I think he does flirt with the other one at some point, although I don't.
Not seriously. He does it in his classic Tony quippy way.
I wish he would do that with men. That would make me so happy. Anyway, that aside, I don't know. I like her. I feel like the bar is very low in terms of like how women, especially scientist women, are portrayed in this. And yeah, they give her a bit of personality. I liked her joke about the kid in the car. That was quite funny. I was like, ooh, that's funny.
Even at the beginning in the Switzerland scene, you see that she's accomplished on her own. She's not simply another Tony. She's in a different scientific field, and she can hold her own against him. And she's clearly kind of just enjoying the party with him. She's not like fawning over him, you know?
That you have actually alluded to something that I do not like about this movie, is he's like, he just comes up with the solution. This is not his area of expertise. Tony is not a botanist, or like, I know she's not a botanist, but I can't remember what she actually does. It's nothing in that direction. He's an engineer, not anything
a biologist
to do with
biology. Of any kind. Yeah.
And I find that kind of ridiculous.
I feel that
like, I know he does the reading.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I feel like a lot of plot threads in this movie, especially those relating to Maya, are done away with too easily. So let's just sort of track Maya's story for this movie. At the beginning, she's just your promising, confident lady scientist.
She's kind of like Tony in a way, really.
Yeah, she's doing her own thing. And she's caught with Extremis. It's really cool. Then later on, when she returns, she seems to be caught up in something bigger than herself, because Eldritch Killian's come along, and she's looking for Tony for help, and he's wanting. They're looking to help each other, essentially.
Yeah.
And she starts to have just some good dialogue, some really good performance, and then there's the reveal that she's actively working with Killian.
That's unnecessary.
Also, not very well explained, because her motivations aren't very well explained. Because she says something along the lines of, he's like the key, or he's got something to perfect the serum or something. But
he doesn't, because we're not shown that in any way. So we just assumed that his man brain knows.
And then in the scene in the dungeon where Tony is locked up, Killian starts to show his true colours as a proper villain, and she threatens to kill herself in order to prevent him from getting her knowledge or something.
But he already has that. Also, okay, I'd like.
You've just cut out for a little bit there, so just say that again.
Yeah. Okay. Did you finish talking about Maya?
Pretty much, and then.
Sorry, I think we're both like freezing out in terms of Wi-Fi.
That's okay. We're both
What the fuck?
Yeah. I'm back
Honestly.
home in the Shire, so.
Oh my god, it's going to be so bad next week when I'm back home as well.
Oh my god.
Anyway, okay, so suicide is traditionally well, at least in tragedy terms, it is a very, very female way of killing, of like ending your life. So, and generally it's due to high emotion. And I just don't think it fits with her character, because I'm just like, why are you threatening to commit suicide? He already knows everything. He doesn't need you. This is unnecessary. And also, then he just shoots her in the head.
Yep.
That
Like, it's not even. It's the trope of kicking the dog, but we already know he's evil, and also she's a human, not a dog. You know.
Yes.
And on top of that, she is a human with something to live for. She has a story-driven goal that she's been working towards, and he is helping her in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly, to kill herself for what? For Tony? And then he just kills her. It feels like the writer didn't know what to do with her character.
Yeah. Also, the making her evil, that's an unnecessary twist, I don't think. I think it's just like, it's one of those things where this is actually a huge flaw with a lot of TV shows where they just do twists for twist's sake that make no narrative sense. And just so people go, ooh.
Yeah.
That was a really weird noise. Okay, I think this would all work better. I know that Tony being responsible for Extremis is in a way part of the main story thread, but I think you can cut that. And that would give Maya more of a role within the film. Because with Tony being able to basically solve the situation, her role is kind of undercut. So she can just die. Like, there's no narrative need for her to live to save Pepper or to, like, end Extremis hurting other people. Like, there's no need for her character because Tony can solve it because he's suddenly a botanist.
Especially with how it relates to her character in the original source material.
Yes.
In the Extremis storyline, it's quite different to the movie, but there's enough crossover that I feel this is relevant.
Yeah.
She helps Tony out. Tony is underpowered in order to defeat the villain, and so she gives him the Extremis serum in order to power him up, and they take down the bad guy essentially together.
That would work so well. Why the fuck did no one do that? Also, can I just say, in all these suits, why has he not made Pepper a suit? Not
That's
happy.
basically where I was
Not
going to move on to.
Transition to Pepper.
My pitch, because in this movie, Pepper is a damsel in distress. When Killian kidnaps her and pumps her with the Extremis serum for reasons, and then is like, ah, ha, ha, I might kill her.
I'm so evil.
Meanwhile, the president has been kidnapped. So it's giving Tony a reason to do the final battle, except he already has one, which is the president is in danger.
Do we care about the president, though?
No, but it's a very compelling reason for Iron Man to come and save the day.
Yeah, yeah.
To be kidnapped.
Yes.
So my pitch is Tony, in amongst the 42 Iron Man suits he's built the rescue armor for Pepper. But something's wrong. And throughout the movie, he can't quite figure out what it is. Because in this movie, he does say that the most important thing in the world to him is her and he wants to protect her. Why not protect her by giving her a suit? Why doesn't he get the idea, maybe, when he puts the Mark 42 onto her, that maybe she needs a suit of her own?
I'm not happy.
He can't get it to
this
work.
is alluded to a ton of times, also in the trailer, because what Zaid was saying about the trailer being a huge missile, there is literally the scene of her with, well, is there? Maybe? No, there's a scene of it groping Tony's ass, and if it being over the top of him, we were like, oh, okay, Iron Man. It was a bit weird.
Yeah.
See, that would also be really good if that was just the armor instead of Pepper in it. Oh, so many possibilities in terms of how we deal with this.
Yeah. So my pitch is remove her from the damsel in distress situation. Throughout the movie, put her in the suit, but for some reason it can't work. And then Maya comes along, and instead of giving Tony Extremis, because why have him have all the fun, Maya gives Pepper the Extremis after having Pepper voluntarily want to help out, giving her agency and heroism within this film. And then we still get that badass moment at the end of the final fight where Pepper kicks all kinds of ass and saves the day.
She kicks one ass.
She kicks one ass.
And
it's
there's
pretty
a fire,
cool.
and she has a bra on.
Yeah.
Greg, I'm not
my
happy
new
about this
pitch,
scene.
That's fine. So my new pitch, she's wearing armor, Iron Patriot, Iron Man, they're all in it together.
Oh, it's a team.
It's a team. It's almost as if he's not working alone.
Riri Williams there as well, just to see. Oh, in terms of like the kid who is like, it could be any kid. They could have had Riri Williams as that kid. I'm just saying now.
I don't think they could have, because Riri Williams was invented in 2015.
Shush. Okay, they could have.
I'm sorry to burst.
They should have sorted their lives out, shouldn't they?
Time travel.
There is time travel in this universe, Greg. Don't you know? As someone said to me the other day.
Oh my god! But yeah, basically, my pitch gives Maya a natural kind of. It gives Maya more of a story arc and a reason to be there. It gives Pepper more agency, and it gives it takes some of the spotlight away from Tony. And I have seen this idea floating around that a big reason this movie takes away the spotlight from Tony is that Tony is telling the story to Bruce Banner.
Yes.
And so he downplays his involvement, as you would do when you were telling the story. You're going to put everyone else in.
Classics references.
Sure. But I like that theory because it shows that
he's become more humble. Yeah,
exactly. And so give Pepper more to do, basically.
Yeah.
And that way it feels like she earns that final fight. And also, as much as Gwyneth Paltrow does look great in a sports bra, it means that she doesn't have to walk around in a sports bra, you know?
What really upsets me is honestly that Pepper is like so. She has so much purpose beyond being a love interest in the other movies. And the fact, I mean, not in the Avengers, but there's no time for love in Avengers, okay? We have shit to avenge. Okay? Apart from my alternative theory, but we all heard about that last week.
Yeah.
So this movie needs to reposition Pepper. We need to cut all these tropes of damsel in distress. And then I would feel less iffy about the one woman, again, exceptionalism on Killian's team, which also annoys me a lot. Like, this is my continued thing, which I'll be explaining more in Guardians of the Galaxy, because I realized this the other day. But basically, if you don't have like a ton of women and a ton of like people of color and just generally have a diverse team background, it looks weird unless you're doing a Nazi thing. Like, I don't know, it's just weird. Anyway,
in terms of like henchmen.
Yeah, and armies, just people who are just there for like one shot, just supporting cast people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway, so there's only one other woman in this film. Oh, apart from that guy's mother, who I've just remembered.
Yes.
Yeah.
The suicide bomber. His mother appears briefly.
Yeah.
And she's interesting. That's genuinely all I have to say about her. She adds an interesting conversation to the movie.
I feel like they could have brought, because they've gone for this extremis of Tony being sort of responsible for it, they could have brought out more of the themes that do come later in Civil War, with like Tony feeling responsible for things and like, you know, people blaming him. So, you know, I feel like that could have been played up in a better way.
Yeah. What I do enjoy about this film is how it opens and ends on a monologue, and the opening monologue talks a lot about making your own demons, and that's the big theme of not only this film but the Iron Man story moving on from Avengers. Yeah,
I just don't think that's shown visually enough, or in like the content we're given.
Absolutely. What about Eldritch Killian as a villain? And no, we'll go with Eldritch first, and then we'll talk about the Mandarin.
You know that line where he's talking to Pepper and he's like, "You're my prize." Well, like Pepper says that, but whatever. That destroyed him as a villain for me, and I was just like, for fuck's sake. I can't watch this seriously. Like, who does that? What legitimate villainry plan do you go, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kidnap my rival's girlfriend for the fun of it so that I can win. But how do you win? Like, genuinely, that is my question, is how would he have won? Because,
like, the problem is, I feel like
I don't find his motivations
biggest problem
clear.
with this movie narratively is that it starts off so strong.
Yeah.
Eldritch's backstory is simple, compelling, and believable.
Yeah.
And it also leads to a semi-plot twist.
And it also works in terms of the Iron Man trilogy, starting off with terrorism as well, and dealing with domestic terrorism, which...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The big theme of domestic terrorism and what Zaid said about the trailers being misleading, I feel like was very intentional.
Yeah.
They said, oh, hey, here's the big villain. He's an Asian terrorist. And then, oops, white guy all along. I feel that was very, very strong.
I feel like that was intentional.
Yeah.
And I thought that... Okay, I know a lot of people... I know we are slipping into talking about the Mandarin, but I know a lot of people didn't like that. But I honestly thought that was really good. And I was like, especially in terms of America and the way they do portray terrorists as being like brown people only, it's kind of... I thought it was very politically relevant.
Definitely.
And especially in terms of like how, you know, arms dealers and a lot of rich people do foster terrorism. So, and neocolonialism and a lot of themes that, yeah, again, it starts off really, really strong. And in terms of, and that twist is really good. I feel like there's a bit too much mucking about in the Mandarin's house. Not necessarily cut that. Have more compelling scenes with Pepper.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't help with the whole portrayal of women thing. Because there's just a bunch of
other women
drugged up. I hesitate to call them prostitutes because they're not actively doing it, but that's basically, they're just eye candy. They're just drugged up eye candy and sex slaves. And what? No.
Honestly, I find this kind of stuff so embarrassing to watch in the cinema. Like, it's just, you're there with your family and it's like, ugh. Like, this is why I hate seeing James Bond with my family. This is why the only reason I like Skyfall is like it's the only moderately fine one. Whereas everything else, it's like, oh, I'll just leave the room because I don't want to see one of my male relatives enjoy this kind of thing. Just hideous. That's not, the scene is not necessary. A lot of it is funny, but the stuff like, about like
Ben Kingsley's performance stand out.
Also, really dodged casting.
Yeah?
Yeah, because they're like, oh yeah, the Mandarin is Asian, and they cast Ben Kingsley.
He's from Manchester, I believe, or at least he went to university.
I mean, he is British.
Yeah, Indian British.
Yeah, it is fine, but I would have
it's
cast someone
you could
different.
Yeah. You could make the claim that it's being meta.
Yeah, maybe.
In which case, fair play, but you don't want to give them too much credit with just casting vaguely brown guy.
Yeah, that's my point. It's like, if you're going to go for this situation, go the whole hog, mate. Yeah. And also... I
mean, interestingly enough, Thunderbirds did it.
Did they?
Do you remember the Thunderbirds movie?
I've never seen this, although I have seen some scenes because Ellen forced to watch them.
It's a good, awful movie that defined my childhood. Ben Kingsley played, I think his name was just the Hood in the Thunderbirds movie. He's the villain, and he is just racist Asian because when Thunderbirds, the TV show, came along, the villains were like Ming the Merciless from Flash Gordon, right? And so in the Thunderbirds movie, they attempted to make it kind of not as bad by making him Ben Kingsley. I guess.
Oh, Ben Kingsley. Jules has some interesting clarification for us.
Go for it.
Shane Black explains that Ben Kingsley's Mandarin... I keep saying Mandarin. That is right, isn't it? I'm pronouncing it right.
I mean, I don't know what the actual.
I was worried that it wasn't the same as like the language. Anyway, that's how it's pronounced in the film, guys. It's not Chinese. It's in the comics in order to avoid the Fuimashana. Oh, stereotype. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But the thing is, for me, is if you're going down it's the terrorists and it's the white terrorists, you need to have the figure be, you know, more authentic. I mean, I would have personally not chosen someone British. I'd have maybe chosen someone American who was then putting on an accent.
Okay.
But I would have like chosen someone mixed race. And then I would have given some kind of backstory of them, like, you know, maybe, I mean, I wouldn't have bothered with the whole hog, but like, you would make it clear that Killian like manipulates them, and in the same way he does, and he's like, I'm not sure the actor thing. Maybe you could have had a full-on manipulation plot situation.
Yeah.
Going on. I mean, I guess him being British works for him being an actor.
Yeah, and like that's just the difficult thing because if you start to mess with the idea of what the Mandarin is, then it kind of changes ideas behind the film.
Yeah.
But taking it as we got it, Ben Kingsley's performance was stellar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, regardless of whether or not you think it was the correct thing to do with the Mandarin, as some fanboys would like to argue, he took what he got and he made it so memorable and so just entertaining.
I actually quite like that the Mandarin isn't Chinese because, one, it makes it relevant politically to current terrorist climates in terms of like America, and yeah, but also it shows like a complete and lumping together by Killian of, you know, Asian cultures and Middle East, of just lumping it all together and going, oh, it's all the same thing. Whereas like, and then you have that scene about like the fortune cookies and it being like, it's an American invention. And like, yeah, I think that really foreshadows, you know, white terrorism.
Yeah, I feel that the themes of this movie are incredibly strong, and because it's being directed by Shane Black, and Shane Black has a very strong style,
I
feel that the movie is strong enough to carry itself, even with the unsatisfying narrative conclusion, whereas Iron Man 2, with equally strong themes, just didn't have the strength behind it.
I feel like this movie kind of falls apart in the middle a little bit.
Yeah.
And the final scene, though, the scene where he blows up all the suits, and honestly, that whole scene is really good.
The final fight is incredible.
Yeah, love it.
In terms of the spectacle that you need, in terms of showing Tony to be the hero we all want him to be, it's all great. It's just a shame that it doesn't carry any narrative impact aside from the clean slate protocol.
Yeah. I would have liked consequences for Killian, because we see Ben Kingsley getting arrested. I keep saying Ben Kingsley instead of Mandarin. But it is implied by him saying he's an actor and his obvious delusion about what is going on, that he genuinely has no clue what's going on.
Yes, he is drugged up.
Yeah, so I'm like, I would have preferred consequence. I mean, I'm happy with him being punished. But again, this seems like, I mean, you could have played that into, you know, scapegoating of brown people over the real villain. But again, they don't show this enough. See, you can make all these conclusions, but you have to sit here and think about it. And like a lot of movies, you need things to be spelled out, especially if they're designed for mass audience consumption.
Yeah.
Like me sitting here and saying this stuff doesn't actually make it true.
Yes,
well, I mean, it does make it true because we don't actually care about authorial intention. But, you know.
Yes, I wanted to tie into what I was saying earlier about Maya and about the narrative sort of impact being lost and about getting rid of plot threads where you don't just want to deal with them. Rhodey is very strong throughout the film. I like the Iron Patriot and the things that they do with it. You could argue that it's almost a meta commentary on the silliness of the Iron Patriot in the comics. But then in the final fight, where does Rhodey go?
I don't know. He just goes off with the president, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And also, he does that like superhuman jump up to him, which is really strange.
Yeah, like he has cool moments.
The Iron Patriot suit, that is also weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird choices. And then Rhodey rescues the president and then says to Tony, I'm going to be like securing the perimeter and taking out some stragglers. And then you never see him again.
What stragglers? They're all fucking there.
It's the same
another thread.
With Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Just said, oh, he's out there.
He's just gone. He's gone. He's doing it. Trust us, guys. We didn't film it, but he's doing it for sure. Yeah. Also, the vice president, it's implied he's involved with extremists and like Killian and terrorism. What the fuck happens with that?
Yep. Also,
because this is a flashback from Tony's perspective, so how would he know that?
Yeah.
Again, this is another narrative problem that they've got going on because we've established this is a flashback, so we shouldn't know that anyway.
That's very, very true. God, that's weird. But also, there's the unfortunate implication that disabled people are villains.
Also, that they need fixing. Boo.
Yeah, could
have been done better. That scene should be cut with the vice president. That's not good.
Yeah, because without it, it almost removes the idea that they need fixing because the rest of them are, I believe, all military.
Yeah.
And so you get the idea that they're all signing up to fix themselves.
In terms of an injury that they've had, rather than something they were born with.
Exactly. And also you can sort of connect it to, oh, they're villainous beforehand, or maybe
they're villainous afterwards. The regrowth of limbs makes them villainous. Maybe you could say that.
And that Eldritch Killian was convincing them to do this. But with the little girl, you just have the idea that, oh yeah, disabled people are inherently tied to bad things, which is like, what are you doing, movie? Why?
Honestly, that choice is so weird. And just the fact that it never comes up again is just very strange. I would have cut it.
Yeah.
It's just
remove it.
Not necessary. Who looked at that and went, oh yeah, I'll keep that in? For God's sake. Some bad choices. Also, him breathing fire. I'll just say that now.
That was plucked straight out of the comics, but the problem was, in the comics, it made sense.
Yeah, in this, it doesn't make sense because we never see anyone else do that, or it's never given any implication you can do that.
Yeah, and it's not even like, because if that had been the first time, because Rhodey responds with surprise, which is what you'd expect to do when you introduce a new power.
Fire later.
There you go. Then it would be a setup for the payoff.
See, this movie is filled with setups and just not really any payoff beyond that incredible final scene that's really good. But also, what do we think about Tony finally fixing himself in terms of the arc reactor no longer being inside him?
The perfect end to his story arc. I genuinely do. As much as this movie does have problems with payoffs, it is that there was no other way to finish the Iron Man trilogy. I truly believe that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I feel conflicted on this because on one hand,
shows. Sorry, go on.
I don't know. I just feel conflicted about it.
Right.
I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I think it's just that I didn't like it. I didn't like the way the scene was shot, and I didn't like the whole thing about him like fixing Pepper and then fixing himself. And I'm like, it's not fixing. It's. I don't know. I just think especially in this movie, in terms of like a theme established with that little girl, it's a bit of a. Yeah.
So. Yeah, it works for him where it doesn't work for others.
Yes.
Because his injury, we've been shown that he's not I don't know exactly how to word this, but essentially his injury is no longer a problem to him.
Yeah.
He's not suffering from his heart issues. He's not having to deal with those. He's just putting them off. And so to finally get the pieces of shrapnel removed is to separate himself from the Iron Man suit, which makes narrative sense.
Mhm. Again, if they'd have done more setup for that
Yeah.
in the movie.
Exactly. And the idea of him fixing himself is different to the idea of him fixing Pepper or the idea of disabled
Mhm.
people needing fixing.
I
Because
think it's
with
just a
him,
bad combination.
yeah, exactly. With him, it truly is fixing because he's an
Yeah.
engineer and he views things as an engineer would.
Mhm.
Whereas with Pepper, it's the same thing that
It's-
Maya's killing did and Rhodey's just going off and doing things did. It's a plot thread that they couldn't be bothered to continue. So they just said, it's fixed.
Yeah.
So,
We don't see anything to do with that. See, Maya, oh. I feel like Killian could have still injected her and then Maya could have fixed it if she'd still been around. That would have made...
yeah.
This would make better sense
it
as
could
well.
give...
Because I'm not too keen on the concept of Tony does not have to be altered in any physical, well, in terms of like gaining physical strength in order to operate the Iron Man suit, and the implication that Pepper would have to be, it's not.
Yeah,
There's
see
some
that.
iffy ground on there. So like it would, Killian could still inject her, Maya could save her, she can then pilot.
Yeah. My thought is, with the original Extremis storyline, the Extremis powers that Tony was given allowed him to do new things with the suit. They made him superhuman.
Should we just inject Tony with this in this storyline as well? Let's inject everyone. Well, hey, done.
Basically. So my thought is, rather than implying that Pepper needs to be stronger to use the Iron Man suit, we give her the perfected form of Extremis. Because there's the problem with the reason Extremis was such a bad thing was because Maya hadn't perfected it.
Yeah.
So we imply that Maya, if she hasn't died, she's perfected the Extremis. She doesn't fix Pepper by removing it. She fixes it. She fixes Pepper by perfecting the Extremis.
Yeah. And she uses Pepper to do that. So it's something about how Pepper reacts to it gives Maya the final situation. Also, the implication that you can regrow limbs with this Extremis is also troubling and weirdly like Spider-Man for some reason. Why did we suddenly go in this direction of regrowing limbs everywhere? I swear they came out the same year as well.
Yes.
Maybe they did.
No, Spider-Man was 2012.
Well, they came out about the same time.
Yeah. Also, if we're talking about the lizard in Spider-Man, there's the weird idea that wanting to regrow a limb makes you a villain. The lizard is weird. But yeah,
there's so many problems.
The
lizard people conspiracy theory is real in that movie.
God damn. If we give Pepper the perfected form of Extremis, then she can become something separate from Tony.
Yes.
In that War Machine is the beefier Iron Man.
Yeah, with the big gun on his head.
Yeah. Then Pepper can become she can essentially become Rescue because with her biological powers of healing, and maybe the perfect. So in the original storyline, what Extremis allowed you to do was mentally interface with technology. That
would make so much more sense in this movie. Why do we have it regrowing limbs?
Yeah. The Mark 42 suit is based on the idea that Tony can call the suit him telepathically.
But then the whole themes would work so much better if you had them all tied together with that.
The original Extremis storyline is one of my favourites. And that's why I'm a little bit sad to see it.
I might finally read an Iron Man comic.
Also, Maya doesn't die in that one, I don't think.
Oh shit, I'm gonna read it. I feel like what we just end up doing is like restructuring these movies entirely. Marvel need to employ us immediately.
Oh, basically.
I feel that
also it would lead Pepper in a good direction because Gwyneth Paltrow has shown that she wants to be in the MCU. She has the abilities to be a hero in her own right. Just make her into the rescue.
She does like a shitload. I swear she's been in some other movies where she does like full on like,
I'm sure. So yeah, I feel that that's the main thing with Iron Man 3. It starts off very strong. It progresses Tony very well, and then it lets itself down in a final fight that has spectacle without substance.
Yes. Speaking of spectacle without substance and a great start, but little payoff, shall we talk about Thor 2?
let's talk about Thor 2,
What
The
a
Dark
lead-in.
World. Go. Okay, right.
Good God. Right.
It's a pretty movie.
Okay, so I saw this movie. This is the only one I've actually ever seen at a midnight screening
Ooh.
because we saw it was a school night as well.
How
14-year-old me was
scandalous.
living the life. So yeah, I have like nice memories attached to this because like we saw the first 4 movie first and then the second one, and it was really sad because it wasn't in 3D. But I remember thinking like how much, you know, the visuals of Asgard had just progressed in like, it's literally like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's insane. Because this is 2013 as well.
Hmm.
And visually, this movie is so strong. Narratively, however, less so.
It's just utter nonsense.
What's happening?
So much potential thrown away.
Also,
I don't know where to begin.
Can I just say, this is the only good point of this movie. Thor's hair in this movie is so good.
They finally gave him a decent wig.
He's visiting Loki in prison in that cape. This is iconic look, only to be topped by, although I really do like his Avengers Age of Ultron look. That's the only reason I like that movie. With that, yeah, good. And also the iconic look in Ragnarok. Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
But no, he looks really good. I'm so happy he dolled himself up to go see his brother. Support that. Yeah, another point I would make is that Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth have more chemistry than Natalie Portman has ever shown in her entire life.
That is entirely accurate. That's yeah.
There's this scene where he pushes him against a wall and they kind of look at each other and it's a bit sexual. I promised I wouldn't mention Thorky. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Fine. So let's begin with this film on. Let's actually start with the Infinity Stone. I say because this is the first time we've ever actually been told that they were Infinity Stones, I believe.
Yeah.
So we see what's referred to as the ether, but as we now know is, I believe, the Power Stone.
The red one, yeah.
Yes. The power and the reality one always get mixed up in my head. Simply their names, I know.
They're different colours, dude.
Yeah.
Fortunately, if they're all the same colour.
Oh, God. But yeah, in this one, we see the ether, and it's implied that there's more going on. So we've seen the Tesseract, but we didn't know it was anything more than a cosmic cube. We saw the scepter, but we didn't know it was anything more than a scepter.
I honestly thought they were the same thing. No, honestly, I thought they were powered by the same thing. And then I was like so shook at the end of Winter Soldier. I was like,
yep. That was definitely intentional, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. Also, it was probably just kind of thrown in there that the scepter was an Infinity Jet. Anyway, that's beside the point. So with the ether, we're introduced to the bigger story being told. We're introduced to the cosmic scale of things, and we start to see more of the 9 realms, aside from Jotunheim. How do you feel?
Sorry, I muted myself to eat a banana.
That's fine.
Okay. So, I'd like to start off by saying that although we have all this stuff about magic in the first 4 film, I do not agree with the direction they've gone in this movie. Like, we are given no implication that magic and science are the same thing. I don't even believe magic exists in this fucking universe. Like, aside from the Bifrost, which is literally just like, you know, basically, it's just suspension of disbelief. Like, everything we see on Asgard, nothing is magic. We only see Odin bang his stick a bit. And, like, in these movies, Loki doesn't even do a whole lot of magic, aside from in the first movie and in the first fight scene. And I'm not happy about that, generally, because I feel like Asgard isn't treated as, like, a separate society at all. It is given completely Earth values, for a start, and I don't... Odin establishes in this first speech as well that they're not gods. I was just like, what? That's the marketing for this film, dude.
Yeah, the entire concept behind the Asgardians is that they are aliens, worshipped as gods, and they have access to old magics, which fine Doctor Strange style, their sciences.
Yeah.
But the idea behind the Asgardians is that they believe their own lies.
Yeah, and I don't think any of that comes across.
No.
Like, okay, I'm 100% sold on the theory that none of these characters are the same people as they are in the comics. And I mean,
Straight up.
Yeah, there is no way they are. Odin also is just like presented as a good guy, and I'm like, is he though? Is he such a shit parent?
Yeah.
And also the punishment of Loki is a bit meh, innit?
Yeah.
Also, like, I could be convinced easily by the fan fiction concept that he doesn't even get punished. Like, what do? They stick him in a dungeon where he's safe from Thanos for like a few years. He ends up king by the end of the film. Great glow up, but I'm not a lot of this movie, I think, like, lays a lot of groundwork for things that I don't like. And in terms of the Nine Realms, again, like, it's not properly established that this is an empire, and that's something I'm really pleased that Thor 3 did. But yeah, just generally, it's not very clear whether this is another dimension or not. Like, just generally, there's not there's a lot of exposition, but it's not useful exposition in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy these sort of storybook telling, and again, this is talking more about the aesthetic of the film rather than the narrative.
Yeah.
The way the exposition is given, the way the Dark Elves are introduced, the idea of like, we get introduced to Bor, Odin's father, sorry, and Thor's grandfather.
The racist, with his unsolicited opinions on Israel, which is still my favourite line from any comic
thing to happen in comics. People going, we don't care about Bor. Let's just make him weird.
What are his opinions on Israel, though?
Like, why would he have opinions on Israel? Why? Anyway.
I will ponder this until my dying day.
So, yeah, we get introduced to more of the history of Asgard, which I appreciate. We get introduced to more of the kingdom, which I heavily appreciate. We even see the opening battle with Warriors 3 and Lady Sif. Thor arrives late, and there's just a bit of interesting characterization going on there. Lady Sif, like, saves him with her shield, and there's promise there.
I'm confused about why Thor is late, because Odin's like, you've been gone for years, come back. When he's literally just left. I'm like, Thor, you've just been there. Dude. Odin's so needy.
Yeah, there's just a lot that doesn't make sense.
So just sad it's not touched upon that Sif and Heimdall are siblings.
Yeah.
Just give me that in my life.
There's just a lot that goes untouched upon.
Okay, do we want to break this down by character?
I think we should.
Okay.
Let's begin with Thor. How has he progressed since Avengers?
That's a good question. I think he's more jaded. And he's got... Again, this is another movie where it was hyped up quite a lot, and then just... Initially it pays off when you watch it and you go, ooh.
So, should we talk about...
Sorry, I was going to mention what Chris Hemsworth said. That's why I was saying that. Sorry.
All right, okay, yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth is like, oh yeah, he still has all these questions about his brother and like why. So Thor's characterization is still very centered around Loki, and Loki's characterization is still very centered around Thor. And in terms of this movie, like, they're still... They don't give Thor enough moments to shine, because they've dulled his character down quite a lot for these films. And they've also implied quite a lot of the time that he's stupid, which he isn't. So, you know.
Yeah, he just starts to drift more into the... Thor starts to drift more into the brute stereotype.
Which he is a bit in the comics. But, like, there's a whole...
He's a contemplative brute, yeah? Yeah.
Whereas, just... I don't know, I feel like Loki really steals this one.
Yeah.
And the scenes with him, like, fully shine and are brilliant and are funny, and they give Thor an opportunity to be funny as well. Whereas in terms of his scene with Jane, like, we don't see any characteristics beyond, oh, I love this woman.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of generally baffled by a lot of things that happen. Like, he could make Jane immortal in the comics. I'm not understanding, where have the apples of Idem gone?
Yeah. Where's anything? So what was the public perception of Thor after the Avengers?
That like he actually interestingly has the second least screen time after Hawkeye.
Wow. Okay.
And is again his story is just very centered around Loki in these films, and it's just kind of I don't know. I'm not into this movie. I am into it, but like only the.
Because like, what did you think when you first saw the Avengers? What did you think of Thor?
When I was like 14, and I fancied.
Yeah, basically.
I was so into these two, so I thought it was great.
Right. So going into
because of the aesthetics of it.
Yeah, going into the Dark World, Thor was presumably just the standout kind of strongest Avenger. Lol, having seen Ragnarok. He's this magic user. He's the most distinct. And then you go into Thor: The Dark World. You see the opening fight, and then you sort of want to learn more about his world.
Yeah.
And what do we get?
Okay. So, in the same way that the last movie had a problem in that it was splitting itself in a weird way between Earth and Asgard, this one has the same problem. In that we still don't know enough about Asgard to care about Asgard. Like, we care about Earth because we live. I give zero shits about what happens to Asgard in this universe. When it's destroyed, I'll just like, man, whatever. Yeah, I genuinely didn't care. And I mean, it was nice having that tour of Asgard in the boat scene. That's really nice. But just generally, there's not a whole lot of substance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Even talking about let's use Frigga as like a microcosm.
Oh my god.
I believe that Frigga definitely represents the society of Asgard.
What, in this universe?
Pretty much, in terms of the way she's treated.
Mm-hmm.
She's given a lot of importance. She's given a lot of weight whenever she's on screen. Like, I don't know the name of the actress, but she's doing an excellent job with what she's been given. But we don't know what she's the goddess of.
No.
We don't know what she stands for in the universe. We don't know what she wants. We don't know who she cares about, except we're told she cares about Loki.
Yeah. That scene in the prison is quite nice. I do like that. But also, I don't really get why he's just down in the dungeon with, like, everyone else. I'm like, surely they would have imprisoned him somewhere else where he can't talk to people.
So there's this really interesting comment. I've forgotten the word for it now. Concept. There we go.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting concept in certainly the animated show Earth's Mightiest Heroes, where Loki does something really bad, and
everyone
so as punishment, they put him in the Silent Realm.
Aww.
Which is this black and white world where he's forced to just sit there, surrounded by like crows, and just be silent because there's no noise.
Right.
And Odin just like puts him in there as like the naughty step, and only Odin can take him out.
Yeah. Okay. I was expecting something like that, or something that had been established myths, or like I was like fully expecting him to get his mouth sewn shut or something like that, because we have the gag at the end of Avengers. I was like, this is gonna happen, or to be banished somewhere.
Yeah. So my idea with pitching to be banished to the Silent Realm.
Yeah.
He's forced to be silent. He's in solitary confinement. He can't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And the crows are watching him because we've established that Odin
his connection to crows.
Yeah. And also it gives us a really interesting aesthetic thing to have black and white imagery. Like, it's literally just in grayscale.
There's so many missed opportunities with this film, and I think a lot of it just comes from the narrative being, this is the problem, is like, we don't care about Jane, like, and we don't care about any of these people on Earth, really. Like, I genuinely
like the scene where Jane's on a date with the Irish guy. That's
funny. I like that they're in the Shard. Just down there, just saying. Wasn't that the other day?
Well, excellent. It's really good because it does show that she's like living her life.
Yeah.
She's moving on with things, except she's not moving on because nobody can compare to Thor. And that's a good setup. And then Darcy comes along, and suddenly we're reminded that Jane hasn't got any character.
Yeah. Again, this is the issue of Darcy and Jane need to be combined into one person. Eric Selvig has taken all the credit for Jane's work.
Yeah.
And he's just running around naked.
Yeah.
Why? I feel like that's what Loki told him to do. Loki in the comics would be like, or mythological Loki is just like, yeah, just get naked.
Yeah. So Selvig's a very confusing character because he's set up in Thor, he's useful in Thor. He's then paid off in the Avengers by making you feel like it's all connected and, oh, hey, there's a guy I recognize. And then they just didn't know what to do with him. And then he appears again in Age of Ultron for that scene that we don't talk about.
Oh, yeah, that scene is... Oh.
And it's like, who is this man? And why is he still here?
Yeah, why is he friends with Thor? Why is he not...
Why does he exist? Like, I bet we're going to get a reference to him in Infinity War.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I can't cope with this.
He's weirdly that important to the writers.
Yeah, he's not important.
He's not.
He's like, we're not given any reason to care about him in Thor either. Also, as someone who watched the Avengers before I saw the first Thor movie, I was like, who the fuck is this Jane woman? Wait, did she come up with this theory originally? What is this man doing?
It's there's just nonsense going on.
Given, not to keep bringing this back to the first Thor movie, but like he's given no kind of reason to be there really. Like, I mean, I get that he's like he was friends with her dad, but like, you know,
and he's like,
we don't know what he's a doctor of. Is he a doctor of astrophysics? Is he a lecturer? Why does he know so much about mythology? Is he just a random Norwegian man?
Also, the fact that he's Norwegian is barely brought up.
Also, I would have set the first Thor movie in Norway.
Easily.
Facts. Okay. Why is this movie set in London? Are we just leaving America, but we're like, oh yeah, we'll just go to Britain?
Okay. So
many questions.
I like the idea of disasters not happening to New York. Yes. I like that. And having the whole like Greenwich thing, it's a nice set piece for the final fight. And it's okay. No, we're getting ahead of things. We're talking about the final fight already. So
sorry, I've just realised I was just thinking about the shot, and I've realised I was literally there the other day. This is when I was drunk the other night.
Perfect.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
So let's pull it back a bit. And talk about see, I don't know, because we could talk about Jane and Thor's relationship because there's a lot of scenes, but there's no relationship. So let's talk about Jane being the plot device because that's all she is. So there's the interesting setup with gravity going weird. That's an element of mystery that is introduced. So Thor is back in Asgard doing his thing. We start to see things develop. Then cut to Earth. Okay, we're continuing with these characters. Maybe we'll see them developed. Then we start to have the gravity go weird. A mystery. Maybe Science Lady Jane is gonna
solve it.
Right?
She's a complete damsel in distress in this movie. Also, she did the main thing that I hate in all narratives, which is where women punch men and it's seen as like a funny thing. And I'm like, that's actually abuse, honey. Yeah. Don't hit men. Don't hit anyone. Woo. And it's like,
that's very true.
It diminishes the concept that women are strong, and also, you know, diminishes the concept that men get abused. Great, good. Yeah, her slapping him is like the stupidest thing in the universe.
Yep.
And it physically upsets me.
Okay, so she goes to the little gravity portal.
So would you slap Thor?
We're introduced to the ether and the world that it's within, and that's cool. The aesthetics of it are cool. The idea that it's been locked away and for some reason because of the convergence it's been opened, that's cool. And then things are happening together. So Malekith and the Dark Elves awaken because the ether's like messed with. We're getting these story threads that are tying together. It's promising.
Yeah.
Then Jane goes into a coma. Malekith does nothing, and Thor.
Thor just kind of stares at his brother a bit more and cuts off a bit of his hair.
Yeah.
Sorry. I still think about how he justified that to Jane. Oh my god. Hilarious.
Honestly, what happened? Did the writers, like, just cough?
Okay, firstly, on a fundamental level, I think this doesn't work because we've been shown that magic doesn't work in this universe properly in the way it does in the comics. I mean, we have Doctor Strange later, and I don't know too much about that, but I presume that also functions on some kind of it being semi-scientific, yeah?
Doctor Strange, the magic is referred to as coding the universe.
Okay, right. So it has a basis, very heavy basis in science. Whereas in the comics, you know, I mean, magic is a form of science that is established, but it is very different. And in this universe, we do not see half of Loki's powers actually demonstrated. And because Asgard is fundamentally not magic in the way, I mean, it's not hugely magic in the comics, but it is established that Odin has like loads of magical powers.
It's certainly technologically based in the movies.
Yes.
It's explicitly mentioned when Jane talks about the medical device that can help her with the ether poisoning, right?
I'm not happy she understood that. Anyway, because of this kind of dodge relationship between magic and science, this is why for me all the fantastical elements of like, ooh, the ether and all this stuff is happening, it doesn't tie together very well because it's not properly. We have Jane doing science stuff on Earth when this is clearly like fantastical shit. I'm not sure what she's trying to do at the end. Like they go around stabbing all those things into ground. Why?
The idea is
it's to stabilize it, yeah?
They're stabilizing the convergence.
But I don't understand if this convergence is supposed to be this thing that happens naturally every 5,000 years, it would stabilize itself.
Yeah.
So whatever. Also, it's kind of again, this is the confusing relationship of the 9 realms, whether they're different dimensions or other places in the universe. That's not properly established because it's like, oh yeah, just these 9 places that all align. This could have been a good way to explain the Bifrost in a more scientific way. Could have, you know, been like, oh yeah, all these places have some kind of alignment connection in terms of their placement within the wider universe. So again, like, just a lot of the background is just not very well explained, even though there is a lot of exposition. It just needs blowing open a bit more.
Yep.
Also, originally this movie was a reverse of the first Thor film.
Okay.
And then I swear, who fucking directed it originally? It was some lady who I do not remember the name of. But originally this was going to be like a Romeo and Juliet style film. And I mean, that wouldn't have worked because Natalie Portman gives no shit about Chris Hemsworth and does not deserve him now. He is really hot.
But imagining that she had...
But you can see the remnants of that in this movie.
Yeah. It would have played into the film's strengths with the aesthetics of Asgard and the fish out of water storyline reversed. Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, I don't think they needed to go to Iceland or wherever that is. It was shot in Iceland. There you go. The fucking Svannaheim. No, I hope I got that right. Did I?
I genuinely don't know.
Okay. Also,
there's a lot of times.
The Dark Elves are natives to Svannaheim, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, the 9 realms each have their own species, and the Dark Elves are one of the 9.
Fundamentally racist.
Yep.
Also, Frigga, we're going to keep talking about her.
Oh,
because in this movie, she pulls out a sword, and I'm like, oh, are we going to see Frigga from the comics? Are we going to see her decimate a foe? Oh, no, she's dead. Oh.
Yep. Also, what was she the goddess of? I mean, I've got a gut feeling that says wisdom.
No, it's like the Heath or family or something like that in mythology, but
that doesn't translate into superheroes.
No, because in the comics she's like really badass all the time, and there's like having none of Loki's shit ever.
Yeah.
Or Thor's shit, or any of the other shit, to be honest.
Oh dear.
Especially Odin.
So
Who is Odin in this movie? Like, I'm just confused.
oh, Zayd's back. This will
Zayd's
be
back.
fun.
He can also be confused. Hello.
Yeah.
It's like I never left. I was here the whole time. Hello.
So we're talking about Thor 2.
Mm.
Oh, let's not. I'm gonna buy.
There's a bad connection.
Oh, it's not.
So,
No.
specifically, we've just started talking about
Specifically,
Malekith and the Dark Elves.
what a waste. What an
Honestly.
absolute waste of a cool concept, and then just making it dumb. I mean, it was already dumb in the first place, but then
Yeah.
making it edgy dumb, if you will, like rather than doing what Thor Ragnarok did and embracing how wacky it is, it went like, let's double down on the edge.
This
So-
is what upsets me, is the fact that the 4 movies have decided that they're going to ground themselves in like an Earth-based reality rather than just going completely whack, which is what they should have done.
Yeah. So the concept is what they did with these Dark Elves was they're an alien species who are pretty warlike, right? But what they've always been in the comics is the 9 realms have had the fantasy archetypes. So
Yeah.
you've got the Asgardians who are just Vikings.
Yeah.
You've got the dwarves who are World of Warcraft dwarves.
Mhm.
Wait, there are dwarves in Marvel.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are
We're
actual
going-
dwarves.
there's a theory that we're seeing the first one in Avengers 3. So
Oh,
This sounds hideous.
he's going to be played by Peter Dinklage, if the theory is correct.
That
it
sounds
sounds less horrible.
that sounds less hideous.
I'll talk more
I'm
about that
still
later.
concerned.
But basically, the 9 realms are populated by the Asgardians, the Frost Giants, the
The
dwarves,
Vanir.
the Vanir, who are the elves. No, sorry, they're slightly
No.
different, but they function
They
like
are slightly
elves.
different gods.
Yes.
They
Uh,
are they the ones who are also the White Elves?
No, the light elves are different.
Yeah.
See where it
Okay.
gets confusing, but anyway, they each perform some sort of fantasy stereotype.
Yeah.
What are the Dark Elves? If I was just to tell you, oh yeah, there are Dark Elves, and you hadn't seen the movie, what
They're
are they?
generally associated in the mythology with blacksmiths and kind of welding in terms of go and get your armor forged from them. And there is something in the myths about hammers. Guys talk, and I'll just check this because I don't want to make a
Zayd.
I
statement.
mean, when I think Dark Elves, because I'm a fucking nerd, I think of D&D slash Warcraft's interpretation as these sort of like purple-skinned, white-haired elves that live underground. They're kind of evil. These people think they are because they're dark-skinned. They're at least in D&D there's supposed to be some sort of ham-fisted racial commentary. But of course, it's D&D, so it's not really the place for ham-fisted racial commentary.
So basically, that's what they are. The Dark Elves are kind of bloodthirsty. They are purple-skinned, white-haired, and
Right.
they have constant wars. They're just trying to conquest everyone, but they're also connected to black magic and
Yeah.
the dark areas of that area.
Okay, so Thor's hammer was forged by dwarfs, but it's non-specific about which ones, as all
Okay.
mythology is. So there are some interesting directions they could have taken this in. And also, I have a fundamental problem with any race that is supposed to be fundamentally warlike, because that's not
It's not
That's
true to
just-
life.
iffy.
Yep. So
You can't just go, oh yeah, this whole race are evil.
I'm going to use this opportunity with Thor's Hammer to briefly talk about the dwarfs, especially in relation to Avengers 3. All we know is that Mjolnir was forged in the heart of a dying star by the dwarves as a gift to Odin. Going from Ragnarok's colonial route, it probably wasn't a gift. He probably threatened them into making it. We're going to possibly see this pay off because Peter Dinklage is in Avengers 3, cast in an unknown role.
Greg, can you just avoid spoilers? If you're going to say anything, can I just
That's okay.
Yeah.
I will avoid spoilers entirely.
Sorry, thank you. I've been
That's
spoiled
okay.
really badly and I'm not happy.
Okay. He's been cast in an unknown role, and we do know that there's going to be something in this movie to do with making weapons. It would make sense to introduce a dwarf in this movie. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes, he has the new hammer or axe thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
But
So we
back
might get to
to-
see these dwarves. Back to the Dark Elves.
Okay.
Zaid, going off what I've told you of what they are in the comics, how does the movie interpret them?
The movie sort of interpret them as they like war. Well, they didn't want war. They sort of wanted dominion over Odin, but then Odin sort of fucked their shit up, and then they went into sort of dormant state because reasons.
Took a nap.
And they needed They needed the red Infinity Stone, whatever it's called. What's the red
ether.
one called, Greg? I can't.
The curse.
The ether. That's what they needed.
The ether wanted.
yeah.
Sorry.
The
Yes,
curse
they
is
wanted
the
the
guy.
CGI ether to make the
I
whole
was
universe black. So it's a bit like I'm not sure if their plan was brilliant because when the whole universe is black, how does that benefit them?
Honestly,
Like, okay, the universe is dead. Great. Now what?
great. This is literally my problem with the Daleks and Doctor Who as well. They're like, yeah, let's kill everything. I'm
The
just like,
thing
why?
with the Daleks is that
They have a reason. They
Yeah.
want to turn everything into stuff like that. Whereas the Dark Elves don't, because they're not.
The Dark Elves have no
technology.
motivation, no functioning society that
Yeah.
we're introduced to, and also, like, even in Star Wars, right? The Empire had some sort of a plan.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. It wasn't well explored in the original movie. The first movie, the Empire just existed. But
Yeah.
even then, you could believe them as a threat.
Yeah.
Dark Elves have zero purpose beyond their backstory.
hmm
They exist to want the ether. Jane exists to be the ether's host. Therefore, Thor has to save the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no conflict here. A conflict is born out of two opposing ideologies. Thor 2 has genuinely no conflict.
Yeah, it's just some people want to destroy the universe, and Thor's like, "Oh, I'll stop them because I'm the one who's the only person who saves the universe around
Except
here."
not, because he only does so because Malekith attacks Jane, and then Malekith attacks him.
Yeah, why doesn't Malekith do that? Go find some other targets.
There's
Okay.
literally no compelling motivation for any character in this movie at all.
Okay, so wait a minute.
Actually, I will refute that. There is one character who actually has some motivation. It's done quite well. Loki.
That's okay. I
Okay.
forgot about him.
It's honestly one of the few good bits of the movie are the bits
Yeah.
when he's on screen, especially the moment after he finds out his mother has died.
Oh,
I love the bit when he's in his cell, like he subtly loses his shit, like he just sort of
Yeah, with the
screams
magic
silently.
thing. That's
yes,
cool.
and then later on, come down. Like it was cool to see he hides his emotions from his brother and all that sort of stuff.
mhm.
But that was well done, and then his subsequent like trust my rage, all that stuff.
Mhm.
I liked that. That was a cool line.
That was all good.
That bit was all done, and if the rest of the movie had good motivations like Loki had, unlike Thor, who was sort of bumbling around, where's my Earth girlfriend? She's got a red thing inside her. How she got her red thing inside her? She was in London and went to an estate and then started playing around with portals for some reason.
Is this fetishization of poverty? Maybe.
Perhaps. Who knows?
Okay, so way to fix this is you can bring in, if they'd have brought in Asgard's colonial themes at this point, rather than saving them all for Ragnarok, which I believe just goes in a completely different direction. If they brought them in more strongly, we could have like the Dark Elves being oppressed by Asgard and the Ether being a way to get outside of their oppression. But this movie seems to want to frame Asgard as being good, so we like them. But Asgard in the comics are not good. So if they just move the alignments about a bit, this would work better. And also it would give Thor a vested interest. And also it would create some moral dilemmas for him.
Mm-hmm. But of course, the movie has very little any kind of dilemma. I mean, like the way they beat Malekith as well was just so dumb. Like, it was like, let's fuck around with portals. Here's some spikes. Let's run around London with spikes and make portals and throw him through.
I literally just said this. Amazing.
So, in terms of villains, there are two ways to make villains interesting in superhero movies. The first of which is to make them interesting characters, like every movie ever. And the second way is to give them an interesting way of fighting. Or if your character is like a puppet master, give them some interesting way of talking, right? You just make them appealing on the screen, and then even if
we'll have good writing, like not to suck on Daredevil's dick again, but Wilson Fisk.
Yeah,
you understand why he's doing what he's doing, and in some ways you empathize with him, like because you see his background, you see Jesus Christ, he had a fucked up childhood. I'd also think the streets messed up after that, and because you can see the world from his perspective, you're like, okay, maybe Matt's wrong, maybe Wilson is right, maybe this is the only way you can make Hell's Kitchen, the safe place.
Yeah, I think the most interesting narratives, especially in the MCU, are where we do have like a moral conflict in terms of like, you can understand where the villain is coming from. And this is why Thor 1, this is its one redeeming aspect in terms of the story. Because we did talk last time about how we would restructure that entire movie. It's like you understand where it's coming from, but you also understand where Thor is coming from, which makes it interesting viewing.
Yeah.
But
so
this, you just don't.
Yeah. So... you have the two main avenues, which is you make them written well, or you make them perform well. Ideally, you want both.
Nice. Yes.
And so,
or you make them wacky as fuck, like funny wacky.
Right. So,
like good example, Dio. I don't know if anyone's followed anime at all, but Dio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Right.
Literally, to make you hate him, they constantly have him kill dogs. He at one point actually just eats a baby. It's like, okay, I really hate this villain now. I actually really want him to lose.
Yeah.
He's not particularly well written, but it's just fact. It's another way of doing it. You either go full nutty, or you don't at all, really.
So Christopher Eccleston deserved better.
Yeah, and there's the problem: is that Malekith, his motivations were kind of made clear. It's just a shame they're not that compelling. Like he just wants his kingdom, essentially. He just wants to rule the universe. That's fine, because that's a simple motivation for a cartoonish villain. Problem is, he's not a cartoonish villain.
Yeah.
Whereas Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy was a cartoonish villain. He had simple motivations. He just wanted to like start a civil war again, right? But and in order to make him compelling, you made him look goofy and have this staff of power.
And that also works because with Nebula, you also do have that moral issue with her and Gamora being related. So you have multiple levels of villainry in one movie, which makes it, it draws away from the Rowan and doesn't have a whole lot of character beyond just being evil.
Exactly.
But if you only have one villain, you need to do it better. We'll make Odin the villain.
Yeah. So
Odin is the villain.
I refer to cartoons like He-Man for this kind of thing. When you have Skeletor doesn't need a compelling backstory. He doesn't need moral conflict. He's interesting because you just see him on the screen and he's like casting lightning bolts, and it's like, oh, I like this.
I'll get you, He-Man.
Yeah, that's what Malekith needs.
Yes.
So, Zaid,
isn't he like that in the comics?
Yes.
He's quite a wacky character, isn't he?
Zaid, tell me what Malekith's powers are.
Being white. Whilst also being called a dark elf. It doesn't make much sense, actually. Why are they called dark elves? They're white.
Because they're really white. Cast a black guy. Because no, we've called them, they're all black because they're dark. They're evil. Purple. The black people.
Make them purple.
Actually purple. But yeah, Zaid. So
everyone should be purple.
Before Malekith gets the ether, does he have any powers?
Other than being on screen and monologuing, no, not really.
After he gets the ether, does he have any powers?
No, other than getting duped and pushed into portals. He has an Infinity Stone in his bloodstream.
Yeah.
How is he being duped this badly?
How is he alive?
Doctor Strange has an Infinity Stone and he pauses a time loop. Peter Quill takes an Infinity Stone, nearly kills him, and he wipes out a space tyrant.
Yeah.
Malekith gets one, and he's like, right, portals.
So and the portals aren't even caused by the Infinity Stone.
No.
It's just a physical event that happened.
So just every once in a while you can fall to another realm.
Why has this not happened before?
Missed opportunity this is in the source material, Malekith is known as the Mad King. He is absolutely insane,
You said he's quite Joker-like.
bloodthirsty, yeah, and he's a sorcerer. So imagine if the Joker had access to Doctor Strange's powers. That's Malekith.
This would be so much better. I would be like completely down for a Joker-like villain.
Like, you don't need to give him... You can give him the same backstory as he got in Thor: The Dark World. You just give him compelling, like, charisma and crazy, wacky powers that Thor's got to deal with. And suddenly he's interesting. However, then you can't cast Christopher Eccleston because Christopher Eccleston can't do that.
I'm actually I can't figure out who Christopher Eccleston
The
is.
Ninth Doctor. Guys, stop him.
Him?
Yes.
He was Malekith?
Yep. He's my fave Doctor,
also,
guys.
There's a little bit of trivia. Christopher Eccleston is from Salford.
That's why he's shit.
Bit rude.
Wow. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Okay.
I would try, but screens don't allow fists.
Thank you.
For the end of this broadcast, should we bring in? Should we see if we can bring in?
Let's bring in some guests because we forgot how to have guests last time and the time before.
Right. So I'm gonna message Jules because presumably
he has opinions.
She'll be interested. Yep. You two do some talking about how dumb Malekith is while I do that.
Malekith is a fucking idiot.
He's just so silly. I mean, come on.
Can I
with that plan.
I don't understand how Jane survived having the Infinity Stone running through her bloodstream. Peter Quill lasted like 5 seconds before he had to grab onto something else. She's just kind of laying there. It's supposed to be the Power Stone as well.
It's Marvel caveat.
Like the most blasty one.
Like, I know some people turn around and go, because superhero movie, but I mean, at least follow the rules you've set up yourself, right?
Yeah.
Be consistent with them.
That's for me where this movie doesn't work, is that it doesn't follow its own rules. And then also the twisting and untwisting with like Loki dying annoys me. Although that was done in a reshoot, was that he came back.
Oh.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
So, Jules, tell us about anything you think we've missed.
You guys all just froze for me. I'm gonna refresh the page.
That's fine. We'll get it back.
Rejected.
There's just a lot going on.
Has anyone brought up the fact that every part of the movie that doesn't involve humanity is interesting? Oh, he's back. Hello.
Nothing that doesn't involve Loki is interesting.
I think
facts.
Stuff on Asgard is quite good.
Yeah, I watched this movie a lot and I skip all the Earth scenes. So
pretty much, it would be a better movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jules.
Anyway,
Jules, give us your opinions. I've talked a lot.
We haven't talked about.
Okay, I'm not. Maybe you did talk about this before I showed up. I don't know. Did you guys talk about the little kid, Iron Man 3?
Briefly, in that I said I wanted it to be Riri Williams, and then got told that she was only invented in 2015, and to shut up.
It's just like
silly Billy.
Yeah, I know. How dare I?
There has been one like precocious little kid in a movie that I've ever actually liked, and that was Charles Wallace in *A Wrinkle in Time*, and that's just because I read the book and so I already liked him. I cannot stand this kid.
Oh, I like this kid, but I'm just not interested in him.
I don't know.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, when the kid like shoots the web at Rhino, and it's like Spider-Man. Oh, there's also Spider-Man. This is good writing.
Excellent writing.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
So yeah, tell us more about this kid, Jules.
Okay. There's this kid and Iron Man hangs out with him, and the Wikipedia describes him as becoming Iron Man's sidekick, which isn't really a thing.
What? Get him an Iron Man suit then.
Yeah, why not just give everyone an Iron Man suit? Give Pepper one, give little kid one.
Give Pepper an Iron Man suit. Not happy.
Also, I saw Thor 2 in theaters. I remembered nothing about it. And then I went on the Wikipedia today because I was like, oh, they're going to be talking about Thor 2. I should read up on it. I could not read that Wikipedia summary because it was so It didn't make any sense.
It genuinely makes no sense as
It
a
was like-
concept.
It was just like a bunch of like Norse mythology words that I didn't understand.
I'm actually convinced that whoever writes the Thor movies has either not read the comics, not read any of the mythology, and has just kind of gone with like a quick browse and just gone, oh yeah, that villain. We'll just combine that with that aspect and just ignore all the context for everything.
Yeah.
Also, to return to that kid again.
Write them.
As Jill was saying earlier with that kid, doesn't Iron Man literally give him straight up military grade hardware?
Yeah.
He gives him like a flare gun thing. It's like, I mean, do you know this kid isn't like gonna hurt someone? That's not a great superhero thing to do.
That's what you do to bullies. You blast them in the face.
A hero ever runs into just happens to be like the smartest kid in the universe.
It's not even that. Like, what if that? Like, this kid now has Iron Man level technology.
And so it's a white boy kid as well.
Yeah, and it's like he's gonna what's he gonna do? Like, kill his bullies? What?
I don't
No,
know.
it's okay because he blasts it in the face of one of the villains. I think it's that guy who chews that stick when he grabs him.
Ah, yeah, Stick Chew Guy, my favourite guy.
Shoot guy, the best character.
I don't know if he had a name.
He didn't. None of the henchmen had names.
No, part of it. No, the actor's name. I remember this is like James Badger or something like that, and I remembered that because I thought it was funny.
I don't know.
James Badger.
Yeah,
That's like a character from Wind in the Willows, I
I
imagine.
know. I think he's just called Badger in the film.
Maybe. So, like, in Thor: The Dark World,
Mhm.
we've discussed all of these things. We've discussed the villain. We haven't discussed Curse.
What?
Oh yeah, Curse. Curse.
Yeah, Curse.
That dark elf that gets that thing put in his body, and then it makes him a buff boy, and then the buff boy goes and like
Google
does a
this.
suicide bomb and kills a mother, and he a bad boy now. Yeah, he kills what's her face.
Frigga.
Yeah, her. Yes, he kills her. And that entire scene is well, I mean, once again, like, why isn't Odin able to stop this? Like, he's built up to be this like
This film.
as strong as this.
Any questions?
There's so much they did wrong, and it just makes me.
Oh, Algrim. Or Algreen, however you say it.
Yeah.
Curse with a K because it's edgy.
That's
one
genuinely legit the reason.
Yeah.
The one time they tried to make Frigga interesting.
Oh my god, I'm
was
like
give her a
reading
sword.
Eccleston's like explanation of Malekith's character.
No, genuinely.
And it's very funny.
Go on, read it to us.
He's like, there's a kind of tragic quality to his life. Because he's lost his wife, he's lost his children, he's lost everything, and he returns for revenge. And the agent for his revenge is the ether. If he gets hold of that, he isn't omnipotent. So Eccleston doesn't even get it. He doesn't even know what's going on.
So presumably there was an original cut of this film that does involve those colonialist themes then?
Presumably.
I mean, they never showed him ever losing his family. I feel like that would have helped like, give some motivation. I mean, it's not particularly original, but it would have made it a little better. I mean, God. I've got my large M&M here to comfort me in these trying times.
The trying times of Phase 2.
Yes.
You can't have a character centered around revenge if we haven't seen why they're getting revenge. You know?
Imagine if the Punisher, if you never saw the Punisher's backstory, it'd just be a killing.
Just goes around.
It'd just be like if you just had all the violence from the Punisher without having known that his family was killed.
Yeah.
It's just a man.
Then he'd be the villain.
But he is. I mean, that's sort of.
Okay.
That's the perspective like Daredevil sees him from. But then Daredevil finds out his backstory. He's like, okay, he's not a bad guy. He's just.
Oh, yep, here it is. However, a lot of the scenes involving Malekith's backstory had to be cut from the film to make it more efficient. There was
To make way for what?
Oh, more Darcy scenes where she kisses the guy.
yeah.
Darcy and her kooky side assistants.
Why the fuck does she have an intern? She's an intern.
It's because
Rid of her.
Also, what is Jane a professor of?
Fuck knows.
Astrophysics.
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 But all she does is look into Norse mythology.
No, that's what Eric does.
Zane,
He looks
Zane,
at Norse mythology.
That's astrophysics.
Astrophysics is Norse mythology.
You just read.
I'm an expert in
Neil Gaiman's
astrophysics.
Norse mythology, and you're an astrophysicist. You've got your PhD.
Oh my god!
There's a point
I
where they
should
did-
have gone
where she
to
literally sits
Oxford
there.
to do physics. I've made
There's a bit when they
mistakes
sit there
in
and
my life.
explain. They explain. the
Hang on, I
holes,
found a
and
cool
the
fun
Kyushu is-
fact.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it?
Hemsworth's wife, Elsa Pataki, stood in for Portman during the post-credits kissing scene due to a scheduling conflict.
Oh, that's why they finally have chemistry.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy doesn't look like a wet fish.
Jane, I suddenly have a passion for you.
I suddenly have a hard on for Jane. I
Yes.
wrote notes about this. Hang
What
on.
else was Natalie Portman doing? She couldn't be there to film that one scene.
Can we agree this is the worst MCU film?
Yes.
Easily.
Hulk.
Ooh.
Hulk.
Oh,
Yeah.
No.
are we counting Hulk as part of this?
We are
mess?
counting Hulk. Nick Fury and Tony Stark are in it. We're counting the Hulk.
Hulk is better because it has a cohesive narrative.
Fine.
Thor: The Dark World looks pretty and has Loki in it. Whereas
Yeah,
the
that's
Incredible Hulk is just solidly average. Thor 2 has loads.
But I mean, like, I mean, I'd put them on the same level at most. I wouldn't say that the Hulk is better than Thor: The Dark World, because my god, is that movie bad? You know what's really shocking? I think the Punisher TV series is somehow ranked below Thor: The Dark World.
That's hideous.
It's very weird, and I'm like, what?
Why do people not like The Punisher?
I don't know. And it's only a few rankings above Iron Fist. I'm like, it's not Iron Fist bad. It's not even near that way. It's very weird. Like people just, I think it's this topic and when it released. I think that's why.
Yeah.
Because the gun violence, and then suddenly you've got a hero that's all about.
Yeah, that's true. So
Okay.
final thoughts.
I
Go on,
forget
Jules.
literally every actor that was in this movie. I forgot that freaking Zachary Levi was in this.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
It's
That's
like
because
I
the
forgot
Warriors
freaking
3 were in
Christopher
this for the
Dow was
first
in
scene,
this.
and that's it.
The Warriors 3 have no role in this universe whatsoever, and they keep trying to give them a mini role, and then they're like, oh, they just get bored and shunt off to Earth, and I'm like,
It's worse. It's worse than that.
God.
They swapped out one of the actors for the Warriors 3.
I didn't even notice, honestly.
Zachary Levi replaced some guy.
Josh Dallas.
Sure.
Wait. He did?
Yeah, fair play.
Zachary Levi first appeared in Thor: The Dark World.
There's a different guy.
Yeah, it's Josh Dallas.
I was right, guys.
That's the
See?
freaking guy from Once Upon a Time. Okay, yeah, I know that.
And he plays Prince Charming in that,
Yeah.
which is
So,
a really weird character.
in that big fight scene at the beginning
Mhm.
of The Dark World, the Warriors 3 and Sif are doing their thing. They're doing their literal purpose in life, right? Being superheroes for Asgard.
Yeah.
And then why aren't they involved in any other scenes except the one where they break out Loki? That was good. That is a
That was
good
great.
scene.
Honestly. But why aren't they helping with the end of the universe? Did they just not give a shit about Thor's girlfriend? They're like, oh, well.
Dude, Volstagg found like an entire pig that he just needed to eat, and they just sat and watched him. That was more riveting and more engaging narratively than the final fight in this movie.
Do you remember that scene at the beginning of Thor: The Dark World where Odin is like to Thor, like, hey, why don't you get married to this one from the Warriors 3? Forget about Jane Foster. She human, yo.
Why the fuck?
There's nothing comes of it, by the way. There's never any like
Yeah, there's just this
tension
scene
or
where Sif is like in the snow, and then Thor's like, I need to go and see Loki, and I'm just like, okay.
Is that what Thor does when he's
Yeah,
feeling like
no.
kind of conflicted?
I feel like this is an allusion to the fact that like
I'm conflicted.
Loki
I'm going to see my brother.
Sif in the comics, like originally his female body is Sif's body, which is kind of weird if you think about it. But
That is quite weird.
don't think about the incest aspect of that, kids. Anyway, I will think about it. Anyway,
I bet you
just
will.
But like, the Warriors 3 have no role. Neither does Sith. They're not doing anything. Do more stuff, guys, please.
Just give them
Sad.
It's just a general just.
give them stories, and give them. They're Thor's best mates from childhood.
You literally do not get that impression at all. I'm like, do they even know each other?
Yeah.
The fact I don't even know their when you're saying these names, I'm like,
Fandral,
ooh.
Volstagg,
Hogan.
Hoden, and Sif.
Hogan.
Hogan.
There's an Asian one, isn't there? There's an Asian
Yeah, that's
one.
Hogan.
Right?
He's from Anaheim, not from.
So here's the thing:
Oh, okay.
the Warriors 3 and the Lady Sif, because they go hand in hand, are compelling characters just from their descriptions alone, right? So you've got, and the thing is, none of them are leaders, and that's what's really interesting in a team. So you've got the Lady Sif, who is, I believe, the captain of the guard, and she kind of has a thing for Thor. She's also the sister of Heimdall. You have Fandral the Dashing, who is a Robin Hood type character, except he uses a fencing sword, and he is a local celebrity who believes in his own hype. You have Hogan the Grim, who is the Asian one who uses a flail, like a Morningstar mace, and he is a man of few words who is the combat tactician. And then you have Volstagg the Voluminous, who uses an axe, is really fat, and is basically Santa. He's just like really jolly, and he's just loving
I thought Gimli. I thought Gimli from Lord of the Rings, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, except like tall Gimli.
Yeah.
I'm tall, Gimli.
Basically, right? So just from those brief descriptions, you can imagine adventures that they'd go on, and you can imagine how much more compelling they'd be than Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah. Which this is actually kind of based off, actually, hang on. In the animated series, which is just one movie, Thor: The Tales of Asgard, which I'm not sure when that was released, so someone Google that for me while I'm just chatting. They're all very interesting characters. Like we are introduced to them as they're set telling like this story. So they're just making up their adventures, and it's really funny. And it's revealed that they just go to like this on the outskirts of Asgard, and then Thor and Loki basically sneak onto their ship and like make them go on a real adventure to Jotunheim, and then there's this whole thing with this sword.
So it came out in 2011, and they were looking to capitalize upon the first Thor movie being released.
So it's kind of supposed to be a semi-prequel, but it's also not, because Tales of Asgard, Odin is a good dad, and he's not. Anyway, I'm still convinced Odin needs to be the villain of this series. Sort it out. Anyway, they are given like compelling character traits. They're all really funny, and even though they're not like central characters, you still feel attached to them because we see them at the start, we see them at the end, and we see them partway through. They take part in the battles. You know, it's not like a one-on-one fight situation. So this is where it kind of escalates into a full-out war with Jotunheim, and yeah, stuff happens, and it's really good. And although the Lady Sif is just kind of like, she's with the Valkyries in this, so Brunhild is there as well. But it is generally
the real name of Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie in Thor: Ragnarok.
Yes.
Spoilers!
Thanks, Zaid, for providing the public response.
I am, yes.
Thank you.
I got your back, chat. All two of you.
There's one now.
Let's give some final thoughts on Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 3, and how Phase 2 began.
Weekly. It sputtered a bit. They had to rev it up.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's entirely accurate.
These movies are big on spectacle over substance. And I feel like after the Avengers, they were like, oh, everyone's into superhero films. We need to have like massive fights that top the Avengers scene. And it's like, no, you just need to go in a different direction.
And interestingly enough, 2014 gave us that different direction.
Can't wait for next week.
Wait.
It's called Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
Guardians of the Galaxy
Captain America.
and Captain America: The Winter Soldier. What a good year.
I have so many exciting things to talk about in terms of Bucky and Nebula, and also Loki as like a trio of characters.
Oh boy.
So prepare yourselves.
Yeah.
I have opinions, and I'm not going to reveal them yet. Either.
Right. So
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3. Do you have any thoughts, Zaid?
I felt like I mean, it's a movie that I had to watch twice in order to not be anchored by it. But after I'd watched it twice and had felt the fanboy, I went, right, okay, this is actually quite a smart move because you can't really have a villain called the Mandarin, who is the leader of a terrorist organization, who is ambiguously Asian, because the slight racial issues that would occur from having this strange Arab dude going, death to the West in this Marvel movie. Kind of weird, wouldn't it? I mean, in some ways, it did reflect, like, which is a cool bit of that movie, was the fact that the Mandarin was just a proxy for someone else, which does actually reflect modern war as you see it today. Most conflicts are a proxy battle for bigger nations. Mm-hmm. So I suppose Iron Man 3, as weak as it felt at times, and as dumb as some of the stuff was, at least it had a story that made some sense and could be seen smart in other ways. Whereas Thor is so irredeemable.
Iron Man 3
only marginally.
Right?
It did, and that was Killian is hot.
Yeah,
yes.
pretty much.
Yeah,
that was a message.
He breathes fire. He's hot.
She knows. Yeah, he is the Mandarin.
As he yells,
but he has
dragon tattoos.
Yes, because he breathes fire, man. Like,
of course.
Good.
Everyone who gets does he have dragon tattoos because he breathes fire, or did he breathe fire because he has dragon tattoos?
These are the important
I would like to
think to you. I want these solved.
I'd like to think because he's established as this nerd in the opening scene of the movie. I imagine he got dragon tattoos as a nerd, maybe for like his Dungeons and Dragons OC, and then he was like, "Well, this is embarrassing now. This is really embarrassing, and I better just breathe fire." Also, once again, his motivation is almost as bad as Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No, please don't remind me.
You forgot my birthday. Stop. You forgot my birthday.
Oh,
better go on a killing spree. This is good character writing.
That's literally me every year when people forget my birthday.
Who was?
Do you want to go to killing spree?
Electro?
Yeah, I do.
What?
Who played Electro in Amazing Spider-Man?
Jamie Foxx.
And I was excited. I was like, "Yay! It's not a white person," but then it was horrible.
He's basically translucent.
And then he becomes blue, and it's like it doesn't matter.
He looked cool.
Can we just say now? Marvel has a very strange problem with like casting people of color in roles where they then have their skin painted.
Yep.
So
I mean,
they do it once,
really,
twice.
I mean, Gamora. Also, I mean, Amazing Spider-Man, was that really Marvel though? Because like
it's
whole
fake Marvel.
Fake Marvel.
Rip-off Marvel.
It's Sony. It's Sony. It was back when Sony were being strange with Spider-Man.
Interesting.
Like,
hey, this is
if you're going to mention
the only villain they had the rights to was just Electro.
Pretty much. See, Electro's cool. But anyway.
They had the Green Goblin and Rhino.
But then they messed it up.
They should have used Mysterio.
Punk kid.
Mysterio is the best Spider-Man villain. He's not really a villain at all. He's just an actor.
In Guardians of the Galaxy,
right?
You see Korath the Pursuer, who you will recognize as the black dude in the beginning who goes, "Who?" when Star-Lord shuts up Star-Lord, right? He is, first of all, returning for Captain Marvel.
Yes! And Lee Pace, my dude!
And Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser, and Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson.
Really I'm so pleased we're going down the Kree route.
Now, interesting enough, he's Kree. It'd be, what colours are the Kree?
Green.
They're the Skrulls.
Oh.
Blue and pink, right? What colour is Korath the Pursuer?
Black.
This is a weird instance where it goes against the precedent that you just said.
Do you think they're just going to paint him blue for this movie? They just put some blue on his face.
No, just paint him pink. They gotta sell toys to the girls somehow.
Okay. Maybe it'll be like how Loki is secretly a frost giant, and then they'll just turn him another colour for like one scene, and they'll be like, but then he was so sad that he learned magic to hide. He was blue.
Brilliant.
Marvel's racist against blue people.
Give this woman an Oscar. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any wrap ups? Anything we want to say as a final
I
thing?
think you guys are too hard on Jane Foster. I'm just gonna say it.
No.
I mean, there's only one person who has a hard-on for Jane Foster. His name's Thor. It's actually they don't. They've got terrible.
Because they have no chemistry.
Actually,
No one
it's me
does.
in terms of the comics.
I think Jane as a concept could have been really interesting.
It's the dude from the IT crowd who's at the beginning who's having a date and then gets shafted.
Like Chris O'Dowd's there for no reason.
Yeah, he's on a date. He's just trying, and then they phone him later when she's in a cave.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
I'd like to think that that is just Roy from the IT crowd. It just is
Yeah.
Roy. He's just on a date.
The IT
Before I
crowd
return to the
exists
office.
within the Marvel universe.
She
Confirmed.
Before I
phones
turn
him
him
and he's like, try turning it off and on again.
You'd never guess who I met today. You'd never guess. I can't be Irish. I'm sorry, any Irish viewers.
Okay, we should probably end this because we're literally just like,
Rambling about Chris O'Dowd.
yeah.
Okay, so
Not
as a
relevant.
final thing about Jane Foster, the reason we're so hard on her, I believe, is because she is arguably she's the second weakest lady character in the MCU.
Betty.
Yeah, after Betty, but also because myself and Nibby have such an attachment to how she is portrayed in literally every other Marvel story ever.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
She's so strong that to see her be portrayed in this way just stings a little bit.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's where a lot of our pain comes from, especially
I haven't
considering
read a lot of other Thor stuff, so like I don't really know.
Oh my god. Prepare yourself. I'm going to give you recommendations when we're finished.
All right.
Greg is frozen. Yeah. Do I have to
Greg
wrap
is frozen in the mansplaining position.
That's what he does. This is what this live stream is all about, is Greg just mansplaining comics to me and me going, I don't care. So, should I just wrap this up?
I don't know if we should hang up or not. It's gone.
It's gone so wrong. Okay, so you can join us next week.
Greg's gone.
Okay, you can join us next week at an undisclosed time currently for Captain America 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I'm
Greg's
back. I'm back. I don't think that's ended the broadcast or anything, but I gave some conclusive thoughts. If you didn't hear those, whatever.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, probably for the best. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you to the viewers and any concurrent viewers who may be watching this after the fact. Next week, well, this upcoming Saturday,
You
with
literally
all.
just said it while you were gone. That you were doing what you were doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That
You've done it for me. You're all good.
Oh, I didn't know if it was happening on Saturday, so it's happening Saturday, kids.
Hopefully on Saturday, I will put out some tweets and we'll be talking about 2 of the best films Marvel have ever made.
Ooh.
You can follow me on Twitter for more of me thirsting after Thor, if that tickled your fancy. There'll
Perfect.
be links in the description.
They will absolutely. Zaid, even though he isn't here, he does things. He tweets occasionally. Jules is more active on Twitter. There'll be links to everyone in the description.
You wouldn't know.
I've been called out.
Guys, just finish this now before we have beef.
I've been called out. All right. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Doodaloo.